Okay. All right, so welcome to Disability Awareness Talks for December. Today we have our speaker, Cathy Pinkerton. And let's see. So I met you, I think, through the youth program. Cathy has a couple daughters who have been active in the youth program in different ways, Sarah and Ella. And we also discovered that we both lived in the UP for a period of time. So we've had a chance to share a little about that before and after, I think, Disciple Bible Study. So that's been kind of fun. Why don't everybody just take a brief moment to introduce themselves? We'll start with, how about the people on Zoom? And then we'll go to the room. So go ahead. How about Mary, Karen, and Jan?
I'm Mary McCluskey. I'm part of the Access team that helps put on these talks.
I'm Karen Kurtz. I'm also part of the team.
I'm Jan Fogler, a part of the team, and I'm in Colorado, and it's earlier here, and I've got bedhead, so I'm not showing myself, but I'm happy to listen in.
Welcome,
All right.
Jan.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Great. And in the room? We'll start with you.
Hi, I'm Billy, they, them. I used to be part of the Access team, but now I keep having I have conflicts, so I can't attend the meetings anymore.
I'm Karen Sanford.
I'm John Sanford.
I'm Amy Kennedy.
Amy, and I forgot to say I'm Wendy Everett. So welcome everybody. Can I open with a very brief prayer and then I'll turn it over to you, Cathy. And this is an Advent prayer. I've been saving these prayers from Bishop Dean Johnson. I think he's Episcopal. He's like a bishop in the Missouri Synod of the Episcopal Church, as I said. Anyway, just beautiful prayers. So let's bow our hearts briefly in prayer. O holy wisdom, stir our hearts to recognize your presence unfolding about us and among us. Help us who seek after the vanities of this world to fix our hearts securely on you, that in wisdom and strength we may await the day of your coming reign in Jesus Christ, the long expected. Look with love for God. Amen.
Amen.
All right, Cathy, take it away.
Good morning. I'm Cathy Pinkerton. Thanks for being here in person and online. I am a member here at First United Methodist Church of Ann Arbor. With gratitude and some trepidation, I accepted Amy Kennedy's invitation to talk with you about our family's experience with my 16-year-old daughter, Ella, who has Down syndrome. With gratitude, because I welcome the opportunity to spread awareness about Down syndrome, especially on this Advent Sunday and week of joy. And with trepidation, because what I'm about to share is so very personal and our story is still a work in progress. And I get a little nervous when I talk about persons, so close to my heart. Mm-hmm. And our perspective is just one family's experience. And just like every person in God's creation is unique, so is every person with Down syndrome. So in today's discussion, I plan to share some information and resources about Down syndrome, along with our experience, our family's experiences with Ella so far, from her first moments and until now, along with some thoughts about her future. And I do hope you'll ask questions as we go. So slide 1.
Okay, bring that up.
Okay, thank you. So I just wanted to ask, either on the room or online, what do you see? And just shout out, what do you see?
Happiness.
Joy, yes. That is Ella. It's one of my favorite pictures. I've made some prints. I don't print out many pictures anymore. I print this one. I have one in my room. I have one in the living room. I love this picture. And it was a rainy day. Not cold as today, but we were at my granddaughter, her niece's high school softball game. And it was raining and she was cheering on her niece and having a good old time. And you can't quite see the colorful umbrella. I actually have it with me today because I grabbed it from her side of the car because I didn't want to go back out into the street. So, so that's just to lead us off. But to start, I wanted to share something that Pastor Nancy said in concluding last week's sermon that really resonated with me. When she said, we find joy in connection. God made us for joy. God made us for connection, because it made me think of Ella. It reminded me, even from the start, she really wanted to connect with people. Even when she was a baby in a car seat, she had a sense of when people wanted or needed a hug. And, she was known to make older men cry, maybe men, we took them, they were tears of joy, like maybe people who hadn't been hugged in a long time, maybe people who were unhoused or just on the outskirts, but just who seemed down on whatever was going on with them. But Ella recognized a need, even as a baby. And so, but now that she's a teenager, she is a more selective hugger, and she saves her best hugs for her beloved family. And, for that, we're grateful that we're still getting those great hugs. So, and I just want to, we're going to start from the beginning. So it gets a little dramatic at first, but bear with me. So if we could go to the next slide. So I didn't know anything about Down syndrome the day Ella was born. Within moments of her birth by C-section, the doctor was in the operating room examining her, whispering. I couldn't hear what he was saying. I asked the anesthesiologist, what's he saying? I knew something was wrong. I couldn't hear. Within a couple of minutes, he came over to tell me he was 99% sure she had Down syndrome. And he would run a karyotype test to confirm. I was actually relieved. I thought it was something life-threatening. But my first thought was, I felt bad for her because she had such old parents. And my second thought was, how is this going to impact her siblings? I mean, she was born into a family of 8. One full sister who's 3 years old, that's Sarah, that Wendy mentioned. And the other person at home was my daughter Caroline, who was 12. And then because we were a yours, mine, and ours blended family. So she was 8, and 8 turned out to be enough in our households, as it was. But she made me a mom of 5. I was a stepmom of 3, and I was a grandma of 2 at the time. And now I'm a grandma of 4. So yes. So then we were moved, and when the doctor told me, I was still, the surgery was not completed at the time. It was 2 minutes in. So after that, Elle and I found ourselves alone in the recovery room adjacent to the operating room. Elle was quiet, and it was just the 2 of us. And I was looking at her, and she was looking at me, which, I was an experienced mom, and that, that was kind of unusual. That she wasn't crying. She was just looking and very peaceful. And I spoke to her, and she looked some more. And that's when I was convinced she doesn't have Down syndrome. She can't possibly have Down syndrome. And so the first few weeks of her life, I didn't think she had Down syndrome. I didn't see it. And I didn't believe it. So, but more about that in a minute. But just a little, thing, I would just say, if you know people, spread the word. I would just lead with congratulations. It's always, and I just saw in one of my listservs, new baby in the community, the greater online community. There were already like 265 comments. I've read about 50. They all led with congratulations, and what we prefer to avoid is I'm sorry, or my mom said it's a tragedy. God only gives special babies to special parents. Well-meaning, I know. But it's just like, at least not, God only gives you as much as you can handle. I mean, those were just things that were hard to hear. I heard them, and I appreciated it, but, it was super welcome. I still remember the fruit ambrosia one of my good friends made. It was like heaven. I mean, so much fruit and it was so amazing. Food's always welcome. Oh, so, okay. I think we can move on.
Okay.
Oh, and look how she's trying to open her eyes in the bright operating room. She's trying to look so much. That's me. That's her dad. So, I'm gonna need to take a little sip. So with my babies, I like to meet them before they get their names, but I always have a list when I bring a book. So she was going to be Genevieve or Madeline. And so I was trying to decide a couple hours after she was born, and the nurse was in the room leaning against the windowsill. And what she said to me is, well, you don't know what developmental level she's going to be. Wow. She might not be able to understand her name, write her name, say her name. So, okay, let's pull out the list. What else is on there? And there was Ella. Of course, it was Ella of Frel because Sarah insisted that I put that name on the list. She was the lead character in her favorite movie at the time. Sarah was 3. It was Ella Enchanted. It was her favorite movie. And to appease Sarah, I put Ella on the list. And then I looked at it, I'm like, okay, well, Ella, what does that mean? It meant elfin princess, which is, if you know that story, well, that's appropriate name for that movie. But Ella kind of looked like an elfin princess, and anyway, it suited her perfectly. It still does, but she could have, and so I still feel a little pain every time I think of this story because I sold her a little short, but keep expectations high, and I encourage everyone to do that. And in that instance, I didn't, but I really didn't know. I did not know. And so, that's, so I think we can go to the next one. Oh, and we were still in the hospital there, as you can probably guess. This was still in the hospital. This is Caroline. She also was at home with us, and she's 12, and she was really worried about the Down syndrome aspect. And we had told her family about it while we were in the hospital, but we didn't know what to say to the community in those first couple of days. But Caroline was my, she was going around saying, oh, there's one bad thing. Is how she was spreading the news, but in a way she got the word out. I couldn't, I just couldn't, the family knew, but it was, it ended up to be a good thing that she went ahead and did that, because at first I couldn't, I think we can. So, I always like to take a roll of black and whites, my babies, and this was one of the photos. And this was the photo with my sister-in-law really wanted me to use this photo for my birth announcement, but I frankly didn't like it because she looks so vulnerable. It's her dad's hairy arm there. And
She was.
I mean, it's kind of a cool picture, but I didn't like it. It didn't seem like Ella. And so I didn't, and I wasn't quite sure what to do about the birth announcement at that time. That was a big question mark. So
She had a lot of hair.
she did have a lot of hair,
So
and she
tiny.
still does. Yeah, well, she was born a month early.
Oh,
They took her early.
so how much did she weigh?
She weighed 6 pounds 12 ounces. So not bad for a month early.
No.
Yeah, and they checked her lungs right before the day she was born. And she grabbed that needle on the way in. I saw it on camera. Well coordinated. So she was ready. So anyway, all right, I think we can go to the next slide. So here, I love this picture. This is Ella and Sarah, same roll of film. And it kind of shows, Ella, she was calm, very alert. This was more like Ella, but it was with this picture that I finally saw the features of Down syndrome. I didn't see it when I looked at her. You know, I still insisted on seeing the karyotype test, which is a picture of all of the chromosomes. And sure enough, on the 21st chromosome, there were 3, not 2, and it was confirmed, but you know, it was finally here. And, but there are some parents I learned that when they see their babies, that's all they see is the features of Down syndrome. You know, they don't see their baby. All I could see was my baby. I didn't see it. And, so that's just, that, like I say, one family's one parent's story, really. But, you know, Ella and Sarah and we're out are still very close, but, you can see, I just love that picture. And one thing that Ella hated was tummy time is so important for babies, all babies. But Sarah would get down on the floor in front of Ella and then she would just sit right up. And if I was trying to put her on the floor, she'd cry, fuss. But so, you know, Sarah was such a great help with Ella. So I think we can, let me just make sure there wasn't anything else I want to say here. Okay, we can go to the next slide. And so this was the day of Ella's baptism. On Father's Day, she was just a month old. At that time, we were part of a Catholic church parish in Marquette. And in the picture, you'll see, this is Caroline. I don't know why she's crossing her hands like that day. But there's Sarah down up in front, and then my stepkids there, and then some of my husband's family, and one in the suit there in front also was her pediatrician, Jen, there, and her godparents, and her husband is also a physician in Marquette, where Ella was born, and then aunts, uncles, cousins. So that was some of the support we had up in Marquette, where Ella was born. So around this time, what I want to pause here a second, Ella's about this old. When babies are born with a disability like Down syndrome, they come with a team. And at this age, it was early on. And someone came over to my home when Ella was 4 weeks old. And you know, talked to me, you know, looked at Ella and said, oh, look, she can do hands across midline. I'm like, what? What is that? Hands across midline. I'd never heard I was an experienced mom. I'd never heard of that. And so he was telling me how I should hold her because Ella had hypotonia or loose muscles, which is everyone with Down syndrome has that pretty much, where they're just looser throughout their body. And so to support her a different way than maybe you would your other children. And so that was eye-opening. And she handed me a pamphlet. So this is why I want to talk about that story. And it was, well, there is a national conference about Down syndrome. You may want to think about going someday. And, you know, she visited, she was about ready to retire. Unfortunately, she was wonderful. And, but there was a team behind her, which Ella continued with. But so she leaves, I look at the pamphlet and I thought, why in the world would I want to wait? You know, what if I could learn something that could help her this year? And so that was probably June. The conference was in a couple of weeks. So Ella and I went in our first conference. I still had surgical tape on. She was about the youngest one there. But we went to Boston, the National Down Syndrome Congress annual convention. And there I met, it was my first time seeing another baby with Down syndrome other than Ella. I still remember seeing her and it really threw me for a loop. But I got to know her family. So, and I still see their family every year at these conferences. They were living in Germany. We vacationed with them in Nantucket at their brother's home one summer, you know, so we developed friendships to these conferences, and I learned a lot. So that's sort of how I coped, if you will, or how I learned. I lived in a UP. There was no at the time, there was no family support group, Down syndrome specific. There was early on, there was a team. Ella had therapists. physical therapists, speech therapists, occupational therapists, ophthalmologists at 6 months. I mean, she had a medical team from the get-go, but it was the family support that wasn't there just yet. Well, there wasn't families with Down syndrome. We obviously had family support, and we had a lot of friends, and we did have great support in the community. But you know, I was very grateful to that summer get launched into, you know, a conference with thousands of people, experts from all over the world, medical sessions depending on how old your child was, family support sessions. Like if you had a birth to age 1, there was a session to go to, you know. And I met a mom who got a diagnosis just like I did on the operating table. She ended up in shock and in the ICU. She was in her 20s. It was, you know, I was not. And so it didn't hit me. I mean, it hit me, but not in that way. So we can advance to the next slide. So I just want to pause. That's how old Ella was when we started on our journey. And I guess to me, that was about community connections. So so you see Ella is in a downright spectacular shirt there. And that's her first birthday. And just some information about Down syndrome, you know, and the most common is what Ella has, is 3 copies of the 21st chromosome. There are a couple of other types, like mosaic, where it's not in every cell of their body, or translational. But the reason it's called Down syndrome, a lot of people don't know this. There's a Dr. Down who wrote a scholarly publication where he had noticed, you know, similar features of individuals who in the 1800s were all institutionalized. And so that's how it became Down syndrome after him. And that's why Down is capitalized and syndrome is not. But we tend to like, at least we do, like person first language. So a child with Down syndrome, as opposed to a Down's child, that would be a preference. And it is the most common chromosomal condition in the United States. And the numbers have gone down since last checked. It's 5,000 with Down syndrome are born each year in the US. One in about 775. The numbers might be going down because of the advance in the prenatal testing happening. It's an early blood test they have now that is resulting in fewer babies being born. And then most people, most babies with Down syndrome, more than half, are born to mothers less than 35 years old. But you're more apt to have a baby with Down syndrome if you have a baby over 35. So that's a common misconception. People don't realize that. And you know, if anyone ever wanted to explore this topic more deeply, there are 2 national organizations with wonderful resources on their website. One is the National Down Syndrome Congress, which is ndsccenter.org, that I'm pretty involved with still to this day. And then the other one is National Down Syndrome Society, ndss.org, one that I was involved with when Ella was younger and not as involved with these days. Both great, have a lot of great resources. So I think that we can. So, yeah, I'm sure I bought that t-shirt at the conference. So, all right, this is just a very heavy text slide that I promised not to read, but it just, for me, this was, when I said there wasn't a family group, I was going to library story time, met 2 other moms who had their toddlers there with Down syndrome. We got to talking, we co-founded a group, and it was a UP wide group because there's nothing in the whole UP, and it's huge, you know, but we started having monthly meetings in the same library, and then started hosting events, and we hosted what's called a buddy walk. So we'll see some fun photos of that coming up, but we had started hosting events. We did medical outreach to medical professionals because there was not much information out there. we left information in like the lobbies. We gave doctors information, and they got to know us so well that the hospitals would call us when there was a baby born with Down syndrome, and we would come with a basket and talk to the families if they wanted to talk with us, let them know about our meetings. Sometimes the babies would still be in the NICU and the moms would come. Those were some tough meetings. So, all right, where are we? So we did the local group and just sort of, that's how I personally like found purpose and connection, was in being able to create that group. And I found a lot of people in the UP wouldn't travel. Like, I loved going to national conferences. It was like my thing, and I would get energized, and every year I'd learn something. There was always some issue, whether it was a medical issue or, you know, a behavioral issue or something that I would learn. And I could always focus. There's so many sessions, you can't do everything, but I take it back, but there weren't many people who could go. And so I ended up, with my other parents, we created a conference in the UP in Big Bay at Bay Cliff. And I just picked my favorite, the person, my co-president said, well, if you could invite anyone, who would you invite? And I was, well, I'd invite Dr. Brian Scott. He's a Harvard doctor. His sister has Down syndrome. He's written a book, Fasten Your Seatbelts, from, so a sibling perspective. He runs a Down syndrome clinic, so he's a physician. He's a geneticist. I mean, I would invite him. So I tried to write my most persuasive letter I could to him, and he came. And so he did sessions for siblings, and he gave out his books. He said sessions for parents. And because the flights are so bad up to the UP, he stayed with us the whole weekend. He didn't want to stay at camp, but he did stay in Marquette, and I had a parent drive him, and it was like cue the bear, because a bear crossed his path on the way to the camp. It's like, I never got to see a bear cross the road, but cue the bear, the city boy from Boston got to see a bear on the way to camp with us. So that was pretty awesome. So that's sort of, and then I ended up really enjoying I worked into legislative advocacy over time, which I didn't expect to enjoy, but I loved. And I did a lot of that at first, and I'm not doing as much of that these days, but I'm still in a national group and doing a little bit, but not as much as I used to. So I think we can move on from that crazy text heavy. So here's more of the fun slides. This is my daughter, Stephanie. We were at one of the conferences in Orlando, and of course we had to go to the Magic Kingdom, but Stephanie came, and she went to some sibling sessions. And just like my daughter Caroline, who's 12, the one who was telling the community one bad thing, she came with me to the Boston conference. So it was Caroline, and so they had a sibling component to the conference that Caroline went to. And you got to ask a question, put it in a box, so you didn't have to ask your question. And so she went to the sibling conference her first year. So she got those questions answered without me or Ellie in the room, so that was really good. And then I think the next year, Stephanie came to that session, and more from an adult sibling perspective, so that was good. Okay, I think we can move on. And so the National Down Syndrome Conference had a More Alike Than Different campaign that we participated in. We didn't win, but I love that picture of her in the pool, and we latched on to the More Alike Than Different, really because it's true, like their families. And I just talked about some of the features, and certainly there are many. It's not an invisible disability, as we know. There are certain, shorter, sometimes heavier, certain features are the same. That's not a complete list of things, but I trying to think what the place with it. I walked into this room with a poster. At least I thought I did.
Could it be on the counter over there?
Yes.
Good.
Along with the red pen I was looking for. So I created this collage, or it was for a buddy walk in and I took a picture of it. And then I also used it when I went up to Lansing to testify, for, a bill. And, I passed it around and legislators were really interested and took time looking at all these things Ella, did. But I mean, I created this probably in 2013, so she's pretty little and you can't see all the pictures in the slide. Then I looked more closely and Ella must have been mad at us because she scribbled out Sarah's face and my face. And so, you know, more alike than different, she gets mad. And so I have my visitor pass and it was from Buddy Walk. So I have the full collage here. I guess any other thing I have, I'll wait on. So we can,
I just want to say, like, having gone to Advocacy Day with the Michigan Conference and bringing personal stories and sharing photos of people that are impacted by whatever it is you're advocating for is a really important thing. So I really appreciate your collage.
yeah, it was a school day or I would
It
have.
makes it real, right? It makes it real to them. It's not just like,
And
oh,
they-
facts and figures.
And I really was surprised. They really took time to look at it.
Can we pass it around?
Yeah, sure. I'd love to pass it. And I'm sorry she scribbled it out. I didn't know. But she can be a rascal too. Okay, so now we can go to the next slide. And so, we're not saints. So this was taken, a photo shoot. We were creating like pamphlets for our Down syndrome group up in the UP. And this was one of the pictures I really liked of Ella. And I was, because of how I received her diagnosis, I had shared that story. And having shared it, I got asked to sit on a parent committee at Marquette Hospital, which I did. And then I was asked to speak with physicians, which I also did in 2 batches. But my first batch, which included my sister-in-law as one of the physicians, I had started talking, very professional. And then I put up this picture and I said, well, this is why I'm really here. And I just choked up unexpectedly. So this picture just keeps me humble. That's the only reason I have it up here. I love it. I have it in my room also, but because and this was totally Ella at this age, just full of light and you know, energy and mischief. So much mischief. So we can move on to the next one. This was one of our advocacy days on Capitol Hill, but this is my daughter Stephanie. She lives in Northern Virginia and she came and helped me with Ella. It's not a great picture of Ella. I do have a really cute one of just the 2 of us, but I like this one partially because it shows Stephanie and also you can really see the Capitol. You know where we are in this picture. But I worked pretty hard that day because I was the only one from Michigan, so I had to go to every member of the congressional delegation in Michigan to make sure they got their materials. And we did get to meet with our congressional representative and take pictures and everything, but it was a good day, but we worked pretty hard. And Pete Sessions from Texas, he has a family member with Down syndrome, that there was a place, and I don't remember the name of the room, but you couldn't bring cameras in. And he was interacting with Ella, who was just being very friendly and full of herself. And he put her on a table like this, like looked like a historical table. And she was just, you know, and I was mortified, but he did it, you know, and so, you know, and everyone laughed and it was quite funny, but you know, she lived it up that day. It was quite a good day. But,
How old was she then?
oh, that was in 2011. So she was about 3 or 4. Yeah. She was
Cathy, what is the ABLE Act?
The ABLE Act, it is, it's a federal legislation. We're celebrating the 10th anniversary this December. And it was basically, it was a new provision of the law that let individuals who have disabilities diagnosed by, I think by age 26, to be able to save without impacting their eligibility for public benefits like Medicaid. And so it's somewhat similar to like a college 529 savings account that you can save for your college kids, and a separate trip to Washington. I brought Caroline, and her pitch to Senator Stabenow's staffers was, it's not fair that my mom has a 529 account for me, but she can't save for Ella for college. I thought that was a pretty good angle that Caroline had. And so it was just to change a provision in the law so that they could save up to a certain amount of money. I think it's $100,000. But every state then had to pass implementing legislation. So in 2015, that's why I testified in Lansing so we could pass Michigan legislation to implement it. So, you know,
Great.
yeah, it's a savings tool. But if they do have Medicaid, and Medicaid does cover their expenses, and if they pass with money in that account, it goes to the state. You know, so to cover that. So some people have an able account and some people don't, and some people do special needs trust, but it's just a vehicle. You know, some people put their SSI checks in there when they're adults. I have a friend whose daughter's an adult. She gets her SSI checks and gets a debit card, and she can go grocery shopping with her debit card. And it's, you know, so it's almost like a bank account. So.
Nice.
Did I answer your question? Probably more than you wanted to hear, probably.
Oh, yes, thank you very much.
Okay, thanks. Where are we? All right. I think we can move on. Okay, I've got some buddy walk pictures. This was our first, we called it the Upper Peninsula Down Syndrome Association. We gave it a very official name. But this was for our first buddy walk. It was on a beautiful fall day in Ishpeming at Alqual. And that's Caroline, Ella, and me. And we, to lead off the walk, there was a 20-something woman with Down syndrome named Amanda, who's very independent, had her own apartment, and she was leading off the walk, and unscripted, very loud, "I am not a mistake." We're like, wow, because we all had little kids, you know, but you know, and then it reinforced why, and I'm bringing this up with Ella even this week, when she wasn't advocating for herself in school getting help on something she needed. I said, you need to advocate. That's why we call self-advocates, you know, trying to, you know, but Amanda had it down. So, they're called buddy walks, and you know, or they might not be called buddy walks, but if they're called buddy walks, it means some percentage, I think it's 8%, goes back to the National Down Syndrome Society in New York to help with their outreach efforts across the country, which we happily supported because they do great work. So that was just our first one. And we also, a couple times got to go to New York City for their buddy walks, which was fun. And this picture I found by chance, because I was just on Instagram doing a little scrolling. I follow National Down Syndrome Society, and they were doing a montage of 30 years of buddy walks. And I'm paging through, that's my granddaughter and Ella, when in Central Park, because you do the buddy walk and then you play around in Central Park. They were a photographer taking pictures, and I actually interrupted this because I didn't like how Tiana was holding her arms. So I kicked myself later. I didn't know it was official photographer there, but he was taking a picture.
One than you are.
Oh, okay, you can advance it.
Okay, sorry.
I keep forgetting we're not.
I glanced over and I saw
I'm
your
so
point.
sorry.
No, that's
Yeah,
fine.
And that's Ella, and that's, you know, I found that one just perchance, like a few weeks ago, on Instagram. It was just one of the pictures, and they were having some fun, and I interrupted their fun and the photos. That could have been more photos, but the reason we decided to go is the next slide. I submitted that picture as part of a contest, and it's not that selective of a contest. That was on the beach. That's Lake Superior in the background. Ella, our house backed up to Lake Superior, and she loved the beach and loved the water, and I'd look at that face, you know, so that was the first time she got picked to go on Times Square on a Megatron. So of course we had to go, and this little head there, is Ella, and you can't see the full picture, but she's looking at herself there. And so I have to be careful when I submit a picture, because it's like, if she gets it, you have to go to New York. Expensive, so you could go to the next
Sounds like
one.
you've led a kind of expensive life through this.
I did for a while. I've cut back.
Don't get me started on how being on how having a disability ain't cheap.
No,
As
it's not.
somebody who,
It's not, so I have to be very selective. These are all when I had a full-time, well-paying job. Now the next one, that's the next time she got picked to go on the Megatron. Ella loves roller coasters. She really does, and so we have Sarah, my daughter, my granddaughter, my daughter Stephanie, and Ella. And you know, the 11-year-olds just wanted to go and buy touristy stuff. And we're waiting for the pictures, because quite a few people's pictures, you know, and I said, okay, this is what I want. You know, I told them what I wanted in a picture. I want a picture, and they basically gave me what I wanted. And it rolled again. The picture comes up twice, but as soon as I got my picture, they disappeared to go get like trinkets, you know, New York City trinkets in off Times Square, and I alone watched the second picture, but we had a lot of fun, and then did the buddy walk after that in Central Park again. So what do we have next? Okay, so yeah, our roller coasters, what I was thinking about that. And this is World Down Syndrome Day. We'd have in Marquette, we'd have an event for the community. And it's upside down. I know, but she's looking up. I just, you know, and she's eating cake. Her lips are blue. She loves frosting. But I put this up because it's a worldwide celebration. It's always on March 21st for 3 copies of the 21st chromosome. It's recognized at the United Nations. There's usually an event there. There are videos that come out. The group out of the UK always does an awesome video. And this year out of Italy, they had it was a little bit controversial, but I loved it. It was Core Downs. It just coordinated groups in Italy put together a wonderful, powerful video that came out on World Down Syndrome Day. And so it's just we always celebrate it. Some people wear mismatching socks. I'm not crazy about the mismatching socks thing. Some people say it looks like the chromosomes, but Ella would never wear mismatching socks. She just, you know, so we don't go with that, but I just note it because you know, we used to have like cake and punch, and then we'd have someone who'd come and play guitar and sing. So we, you know, so I think it really helped us to have those community connections.
There's a parent in Pumpkin who encouraged us to wear mismatched socks. It must have been on this day.
Oh, yeah, a lot of people do. And I have actually, you know, gotten socks for the classroom and things like that. But Ella would never wear mismatched socks, but sometimes I try to get her to wear crazy socks. Or I purchase, there's a young man with Down syndrome, John's Crazy Socks, and I buy socks from him and, you know, try to get Ella to wear them. I wear them, but she often doesn't. This is just her 100th day of kindergarten. She started off sort of an inverse pyramid of her inclusion, you know, fully included in kindergarten, which she found very chaotic. So it's a kind of a different team. Oh, we can, sorry, move to the next slide. I'm sorry. When I move, I keep forgetting we're not connected. So this was Ella, her 100th day of kindergarten. She was fully included. And it was wild. All she wanted to do was go like sit in a beanbag chair and escape, or walk around the school with her very sweet TA, teaching assistant, Sarah. But she did so much. She did choir, she took Spanish class, she played violin, art class, she played recorder, orchestra. She did so much in elementary school. But after kindergarten, she gravitated toward this what they call self-contained class, smaller classroom. They would actually call me during the day and they said, Ella wants to go into Mrs. H's class, and I'd say, yes, she can. And then I went and observed her in both places. She was engaged in the small classroom and participating and answering in the big classroom. I mean, she would kind of listen, she'd sit on a friend's lap for story time, but all she wanted to do was sort of escape. It was too loud, too many kids, too chaotic. And so, you know, it was hard because it went against what I wanted. I advocated very hard to get her fully included. That wasn't what they had recommended. But it's where Ella learned, and that's where Ella learned to read. That's where she was supported, and they became our extended family and team, where she always had a speech therapist, physical therapist, occupational therapist. So, but it was an inverse pyramid where most inclusion in elementary, and it's kind of gone like this, and she's in 11th grade in high school now. And and she's not clamoring, you know, so that's hard because I know that I look for things for her to do in high school. Like they wanted her on the bowling team, but she didn't want to do it because they don't have bumpers. And she demands bumpers. She uses bumpers and loves bumpers. She didn't want to be coached. And they invited her to try out for a theater production, but she didn't like pirates. So it was Pirates of Penzance. And she didn't, it's always, you know, so, you know, she was in some clubs, including Aerospace Engineering Club, which fuels her interest in space. She's saving her money to go into space. But she hasn't found a niche, and she doesn't really know, she doesn't have one. She's not missing it. So that's just kind of a quick summary of school. So that's a challenge. I'm, you know, gearing up for January's IEP and read, which is a 3-year, could be her last overall look to see what she needs. And I'm hoping we still, like right now, like she'd always wanted choir. This year she finally got choir. She didn't like it. So, you know, one step forward, two back. It's just, we keep trying new things. And I was always able to kind of tinker. In high school, it's not as easy to tinker. You know, it's a little more regimented. And
were you still at Wines?
we were at, she was at Wines from kindergarten till 5th grade. And then she fed into Forsyth for middle school, 6th grade to 8th grade. And she had a tough time in middle school. But I've never had a child who didn't have a tough time in middle school.
Kind of a norm.
I don't know how middle school teachers do it. I have such respect for them, all those hormones bouncing off walls. And Ella was delayed in every way, walking, developing, except for puberty was not delayed. Unfortunately, the one thing I would probably prefer delay, and you know, and sometimes she would elope, which was very scary. In 6th grade, and then she had just eloped again, and I was trying to figure out what to do, and that was in early March of 2020. Of course, then school shut down, and I was like, thank goodness, because we need a breather here, because I didn't know what to do. And then I spent that time, I took her to a Down syndrome clinic in Denver. I figured, well, they'll have appointments during the pandemic. They did, and I got her fully evaluated. She got an extra diagnosis on board, a couple of them. So I used that time to sort of figure out what was going on, besides development. So, but in high school, you know, she struggles academically. It's really hard for her, you know, fight to get her into these classes, and then it's hard. And she's not advocating for herself. She begged me to write an email, which I did, you know, so, you know, I'm trying to teach her, you know, to ask for help if you need it. And yeah.
Took me a couple of years after adulthood to learn how to advocate for myself.
Yeah, it's so important. It's hard. It's a process, isn't it?
Yeah, but I mean, to make a long story short, I'm my own guardian still, so I pretty much have to be.
Yeah, you do. And I'm hoping that Ella, Ella learns those skills. She's 16 now, so she's got some time, but it's gonna go by fast. So,
Like I said before,
yeah,
a
definitely.
lot of, there are, well, I mean, I'm neurodivergent, so I'd use the term neurotypical, but there are neurotypical kids who are in their 20s who struggle with their self-advocacy skills. So, I mean, it's not an
Yes.
uncommon thing.
I definitely can relate to that in my own household even, so. Let's see what else we have here, so. So outside of school, trying to keep Ella busy. I love this picture. She loved this photo shoot. She did not like softball a little bit much. But she hammed it up, and this was my favorite of about 20 photos she took. It was quite fun. But we can move on to the next one. We can move through these pretty quickly. She loves Special Olympics swimming. She's done it for, gosh, I think 7 years. She loves Special Olympics golf. She's done it for a couple summers. Dance, 5 years. And she wouldn't do Special Olympics bowling either, because again, no bumpers. So, but the Down syndrome support team, which is the local group here that was well established when we moved down here in 2013, they have bumpers, monthly bowling. And so she loves that. And she's tried, and she likes the indoor soccer and basketball, but she doesn't like scrimmaging. And she cried when someone stole the ball. So, you know, it's sort of, but we trying to keep her busy and things that she enjoys. And one of those things is music. And this upper right picture, that was their second conference. I was a music therapist at the Down syndrome conference. It was like a break room where you took the crying babies. That conference, Ella had found her voice. I was bringing her to the sessions with me. I'm like, what? Where did this voice come from? She was such a quiet baby, except during the, you know. So we went in there and she loved that. And so, also during the pandemic, we went to, she started seeing a music therapist, and she's seeing the same one still for her emotional regulation. And that was at summer camp. You know, she just loves music, so we can keep moving, see what's next. This was summer camp this summer. So goofy, and I will never give her silly string. Look at the look on her face. That's scary. She loved arts and crafts, and I was really proud of her. This award she got was for sharing her things and being so kind. That really meant a lot to me. Although on the last day behind that award, she's in pajamas because she refused to get dressed. That was the last day. Okay, it was just, so at least she went to camp. I didn't even know if she would go. All right, so we can move. And, you know, adventurous. This is parasailing with her sisters in Virginia, doing Wings and Dreams. Next slide. In Oakland County this summer in a small plane. That's not me who took the picture. That was my granddaughter that rode with her.
I just get the cockpit.
I was too scared. The next slide, you can see the smile. She loved it.
Yeah.
She went to iFly. They had a special night for people with different abilities, and so there she's smiling. So I just wanted to see her face, but then the next one, all of a sudden, so look how high she went. I was just, you know, and I was so blown away. I forgot to look at the pictures they took. So there could have been better pictures, but I was just completely flummoxed. And then they had a driving event in the next slide. I took her out to Canada. Of course, she wants to drive a car, and we'll see, but they do have this group called, and I looked it up today so I'd have the name Life Driving Academy. And I went on their website, and their theme is Colossians 3:23, which of course I had to look up. Whatever your task, work heartily as serving the Lord and not men. As serving the Lord and not men. That's our core value. So, and look at that look on her face. She loved it. She went around herself, and I didn't go because I thought I would freak out and I would impact things. But then they invited me to join. So the second round I went, and it was pretty fun. It was a Jeep Wrangler, and she did hit one curve, but all good. She didn't hit anything else. So next slide, you know, just some common myths. You know, this was Ella. She was fasting in September for some surgery in the afternoon. She was the oldest one. And so we went to the library, and that's the book she picked. It was Obama's something about his father. You know, that's the book she picked. We checked it out. and she couldn't eat at the library, so we went there. But just, she's excited about turning 18. She's already pre-registered to vote, and I had a voting rights table at the Buddy Walk this fall here in Ann Arbor. She wants to go to college. She worked last summer with a job coach. She wants to get married. Her teacher emailed me this week. She was reading Romeo and Juliet to the class, and Ella informed her she was going to get married in college. And I said, well, did she also tell you she wants a baby? I'm like, oh, so we'll see. But there are a lot of, people with Down syndrome, I know, do all those things, and she's not always happy, that's for sure. But I wanted to share with you this story. Caroline and I were in Ireland, and we were in Galway, and his father and son were busking. The son had Down syndrome, and turns out he's the same age as my daughter Caroline, who just turned 29. This was in 2018. And anyway, we listened to them. He's Down syndrome. He's playing the violin. Ella was interested in violin as well and was playing violin. So we waited and met them after. It turned out that dad was from Dexter. They live in Ireland, and the Fionn was born in Ireland, and then dad moves to Dexter after having worked in Ann Arbor and Dexter. And so they come back to visit family, and when they visited, they brought me this piece, and I keep it in my fridge, and I feel bad that I haven't framed it, but I'll pass it around, and that's a picture of it. But if you look carefully at it, what Fionn, the young man with Down syndrome, is in the center, and what they were trying to demonstrate, and they do demonstrate it well, is it's a lot of people think it's just receiving care, but it's a two-way street. They give and they receive so much, and I really truly believe that, and certainly true in our family. And so I just wanted to, and they have a cool website. They travel the world, they lecture. They came to Wines Elementary and talked about Irish animals and played violin when they were here in Ann Arbor. We can move on because I just had to do this because we're talking about connections, and hugging is one of the superpowers. And just, this is Sarah, her only full sibling, and you can see that she's kind of comforting Sarah there. And then moving on to the next one. This was prom night. Ella was invited to the pre-party for prom when she was a freshman. And then Deanna, my granddaughter, was a senior, and so was Sarah. They're just a month apart in age, my granddaughter and daughter, and they graduated from Skyline together, prom together, roommates at college together.
Wow.
And in my house together right now, so it's kind of wild right now because they're home for the holidays. So, and Ella misses them so much, but the hugging, the connections is the idea. Now, I asked my kids, grown kids, to kind of tell me what a positive and a challenge with Ella. And my son, my oldest, Christopher, said something positive about Ella. She's very perceptive and has an understanding of others' emotions and is able to comfort. The challenge would be sometimes not being able to understand that what Ella needs in certain situations, a communication barrier. The conference this summer was in Arizona. They live in Arizona. So this is Phoenix this past summer. And this is my grandson Emiliano and my granddaughter Nina. And so he asked them too. And Emiliano said, Ella is very welcoming and wants everyone to be happy. And the challenge is that Ella can get jealous in terms of getting attention. When I first saw that, it was, I was thinking, I don't really see that. Except Friday night, it's Sarah's birthday. Sarah's opening the present from Deanna, the granddaughter. And Ella thinks that Sarah likes her present better than the one she gave her. So Ella goes off in another room crying, to do. I was like, oh, maybe Emiliano had some insight, even though he lives all the way in Tucson. And then Nina, they played together the whole time. Ella hardly went to any sessions at all. But they had a lot of fun, and they don't get to see each other very often, but they're close. That she's nice, and that maybe she doesn't hold a pencil right. Nina, age 10, was trying to teach Ella how to draw a star. So, but this was at my son's college graduation. I just love this picture. You can see them connecting right before Ella turned 1. and he went to University of Arizona. Can move on. And then this is fast forward, this is Ella's 15th birthday. And Ella, or Sarah, excuse me. The correct daughter is Stephanie, who just turned 40 this year. She wrote, Ella has a way of knowing when someone is having a bad day and is not afraid to call you out on it. You sad, sissy? A little sad, Ella. Don't be sad, sissy, with a big hug. She has the ability to make anyone smile and feel better. That being said, as far as recent challenges, she now knows how to push one's buttons and be a bit rebellious. Ella has always called me sissy, but as a teenager, she has started referring to me as Stephanie, just to push my buttons, more alike than different. And I didn't put that in, Stephanie remembered that from the campaign. And then finally, not finally, Caroline. This is Caroline. She lives locally in Ypsi and celebrating her 29th birthday in Ann Arbor. She writes, Ella brings so much joy and positivity into our lives. There's never a dull moment with her. She has a big personality, cracking jokes and being brutally honest at times with no filter. And then if she's challenged, if she's set on not doing something, it can be difficult to persuade her otherwise. This is a challenge with set obligations and traveling. So true. Finally, Sarah, this was, they were at Thanksgiving up in Gladstone in the UP this year. Sarah just turned 20 on Friday. Ella has given me so much joy. She is one of the kindest, most caring individuals I know. She is also one of the most emotionally intelligent people I know. Her abilities far outweigh her disability. Growing up with her definitely had its challenges and may have limited some experiences, but have given me a plethora of others. I'm honored to know her as much as I do. It's a privilege I wish everyone could experience. So I read, I shared these with Ella, and it looked like Ella was going, it was after the Syracuse Zoom, because we were in there and she asked about it. And so I shared it with her and it looked like she was going to cry. And I said, you okay? I was giving her a hug. This is just emotions, just emotions, you know. So, but you know, so it's a work in progress. You know, I'm hopeful for her future, but you know, hoping like anyone hopes, no one knows how a child is going to turn out at the beginning. You know, we are hopeful, want them to be healthy, happy, live a, you know, productive life. So we're trying to help her build the skills that she needs to do that to live the kind of life she wants to live. But you know, she wants to go to space, she wants to take a cruise, she likes the weather, she wants to be a meteorologist, she wants to care for infants and babies. Her teacher sees a talent for teaching, and maybe she'll be a teacher assistant. She likes art and music. So she has a lot of interests, and she loves her family deeply, misses them deeply. So she feels deeply, grieves deeply. She's lost people. She lives it still to this day, people she's lost. But people she's, you know, former teachers. Like, she doesn't want to have a dress up pajama day because she's remembering a teacher, a beloved teacher from middle school. So, you know, so we love her. She's an essential part of our family, well loved. And so I appreciate your time and attention, and I'm happy. I know I've used my time, but I'm happy to, you know, stay after for questions.
You had a picture you were going to show us there.
I'm sorry? Oh, this one, this picture, this was put together by one of her preschool teachers at U of M. When we first moved here, Ella spent half her day at the U of M childcare up at Glacier Way, and that teacher came with me to her first IEP, like the transition from preschool to kindergarten, to help advocate for her to be fully included to kindergarten. And because she was fully included in that preschool, and it just showed her, you know, doing art, and she, you know, and it helps, I think, get her fully included. It turned out that was a lot for Ella, but that, you know, I really thought that's how she would learn best, and I'm glad we tried it. And I wish, you know, she'd had more inclusion at other, like in high school, but she's getting some now, not, you know, but she's sure not clamoring. But that's, I saved that, was her artwork, and you know, she had a lot of fun with it. I'm passing it around to get a closer look. But yeah, we brought that to her for, you know, that transition IEP.
Yeah, one resource that I know is really good, but they prioritize Medicaid patients is community mental health.
Oh, yes.
And they see every type of developmentally disabled patient, 'cause I know I've been getting care there for a long time.
Yeah.
And I love my art, and Ella just reminds me of how much I love my own art therapist of all people.
Oh, yeah, that's on my list, actually. And Ella would love art therapy, I'm sure. She loves music
Yeah.
therapy so much.
Well, she gets in Pam Wednesdays, 12:30 to, or it's 12 to 1:30. And it's Pam, that's who I
Yeah, so
recommend in terms of art
we'll
therapy.
definitely look into that. I think she would love that.
Yeah, and I mean, Pam has every kind of patient, and although we mostly probably neurodivergent in that classroom, so.
Thank you, fully appreciate it. Thank you.
But definitely contact Pam, because she's really experienced in
Thank you.
programming and everything.
Thank you. I don't know if anyone online had any questions. I know taking a
Now we can see that.
time. Oh, okay.
Kathy,
Hi.
Kathy,
Yes.
I just want to say thank you so very much. All of the slides you showed, the photographs and everything was just so insightful, and just your sharing and telling your story is very, very appreciated. So thank you on behalf of everybody.
Thank you.
I love how, just like parenting any kid, you try to go navigate the path that you think is best, and then you change course when your kid lets you know
Yeah.
that it's not working out for them. So I appreciate
We've tried so many things.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And sometimes with Ella, we just had to figure it out. Like I had tried, right now we're on this path of helping her, you know, lose some weight. You know, she's short, and, you know, and so I thought, well, she loved doing the equipment at physical therapy. So a psychologist referred us to kinesiologist, who referred us to an inclusive gym for a possible personal trainer. I got an appointment. She didn't want to go because she likes to work out with her sister, Sarah, who's away at college at her dad's condo in Milan. And so we got a new appointment with Sarah to come with us next week. So, you know, you just sort of have to figure out, well, why doesn't she want to go? It's like, that's her memory with Sarah. You know, she loves to do that with Sarah. Well, Sarah's usually away at college. Ellen needs to do something, but trying to figure out the why. And I can't always, you know, so I'm always trying to figure it out. And sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. And I just keep trying different things and, you know, see what sticks. And there were a lot of things she does like. And we're keeping those, you know, and then she wants to go to space camp next summer. So we're going to look into that. So
Goes back to tummy time with the beginning, right?
yes, Sarah's essential.
I think a lot of, and teenagers even generally don't like to try something new and I see that, you know, many people too. It's like, oh, I've never been there before. Maybe that going with your sister the first time.
Right, that's what I'm hoping. Yeah, I called a meeting of her team at school, and they're saying, well, what we're seeing at school, she's got a lot of friends, and, you know, and so I think what I'm seeing is she's just decompressing at home. And I'm thinking back to my other teens, like, yeah, they did that, right? She's being a typical teenager, okay, you know, but here I'm calling a meeting to talk about it, you know?
Right.
She has a team, she has many teams.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, you're doing all that socializing, and there's so much sensory experiences at school. It's like you come home, you're like, ooh, it's just, you know,
Yeah.
chill out a little.
I was literally the opposite of that when I was in school.
Were you?
12-hour school days plus, because I was involved in sports.
Right.
But also, there was a reason for that. My parents went through a particularly nasty divorce and didn't take stop for an answer.
That's hard.
It was also great to hear the siblings' point of view.
Well, I thought, the part of the family, you could hear from me, but I decided to ask them. Of course, my firstborn came through with his answer like the same day. And then, it's just, the others trickled in. But I just thought that was an important perspective. The ones I was so worried about from the beginning, she's really brought a lot of depth. But I still have my worries. I'm even older now, right? And, and I still don't know what the future holds. None of us do, but I'm trying to, give her the best, skills and steps and figuring out what she wants. It has to be she has to be motivated. But I just try to give her as many opportunities and see, what she likes the most. So.
Actually.
Oh, and
sounds
I
pretty
don't know if you ever showed the last slide, the Merry Christmas slide.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I found some, the most recent picture was just last Sunday afternoon. Well, but thank you everyone for bearing with me. I
Thank you,
know it was a
Cathy.
lot.
Yeah.
And probably more than you're thinking. But,
That was really informative, but I'm really grateful for the personal sharing, and it's obviously very personal to you for.
I caught myself a few times, even though I try not to, but she's, it's, and I, so I'm trying, I'm very hard to write by her and everything I can do, but she needs to step up, it's like, I can't do it. Let her job coach tell me, like, Ella, you have your own personal cheerleader. Okay. But that only gets her so far. She didn't want to line up the ramekins like the boss said. She didn't want she wanted them straight, not toggled. So things like that, she has some sensory issues, so we're trying to.
I could talk all day about sensory issues.
Yeah.
If you think I have rigid rules, no. They're typical to have rigid rules. I'm just fine.
Yeah, so she's got her, certain things. So, but thank you all for your attention and time and questions. I appreciate, I'm grateful for the opportunity to be here and share our joy.
Thank you very much, Cathy. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right.